Lagos, where do we take you? Right there. That's the Ketu Ojota interchange. The two major highways you can see there, that's the Lagos-Ibadan Expressway, inward Lagos-Ibadan Expressway, and the one under the bridge is the iconic Ikorodu Road that connects Ikorodu town to Lagos Island all the way. One way or the other, you find your way to the other side of it. And of course, you can see the Lamata spot there. This is an iconic place, Ketu Ojota, they call that area, that interchange. By the way, you need to begin to learn the names of the places where you live, don't you think? Ketu, what does it mean? I'll give you one clue. Ojota, for instance, means a spot where the bullet hit. Well, this is Lagos. Good morning and welcome. I'm Ayo Makinde.
All right, so let's go ahead and talk to you about what to expect today. For instance, what a day it will be. All eyes on the Super Eagles of Nigeria because they have a burden on their shoulder, expectations of the nation on their shoulders today because they are expected to triumph over Angola. Yes, it will not be easy, but what a match it will be. The quarterfinal match today promises to be interesting, nail-biting, with all the other mix. And not may the best team win. Of course, may Nigeria win.
Well, it just reminds me of the book Great Expectations.
Charles?
Great expectations today for Nigeria. But then other things that will be happening today. Now, the Civil Society Legislative and Advocacy Center is also talking about Nigeria's fiscal challenges and public debt management. That's another matter that's out there in the front burner, especially with the state of the economy and the exchange rate. Many are wondering, what are we going to do in order to move out of this fiscal quagmire that we found ourselves in? So that will be happening today.
And remember, in the course of the week, we had told you of the space
we don't have another. It's not just that one. FCC will be continuing the emergency road construction and rehabilitation today. So they're keeping tabs on that. So if you're going to go through any of that route, you just have to be cautious, check properly, ask questions so you don't get slowed down if your activities will be such to be done in a hurry.
You know, yesterday the FCT, the event held around the Gwagwalada area, but today I think they're going to Buari area. I think it was that road called now. It's
the Gabatoli Road.
Gabatokolo Road. Yeah, that's what will be happening today. I think the FCT administration's determined to let's just get this out of the way.
Yeah, but you know what to say. If you see something, say something. Yeah. So the police are consistently asking us to keep an eye out there. So there's an emergency number, I know, but this is what they ask us to make do with at the moment. So this emergency number, reach out there to anyone who's someone, whatever you can. You never can tell whose life you may be saving. So they expect a lot of that. So Lagos has an emergency number too. Yes, and I know you can equally call that number when you need. I hope people still utilize it though. Have you tried it recently? I'm not sure if you have though.
Well, it's a Lagos security number, and I'm pretty sure that everyone who have used that name or number before will tell you, look, it works quite well for them wherever it is, especially in the city of Lagos. And I don't think it's only Lagos that has that short code number. I'm not sure what the number is. It's 727 or sharp. Right now, I'm not very, very sure what the number is. But yes, that number is still pretty active as far as I am concerned. Don't forget that Lagos State has a security council of sorts. And I believe that a number of other states also have it. How well they work with the police, the Nigeria police, that's another conversation that I think we need to have altogether. So yes, but it's very, very important for us to look at, oh yes, that number, Lagos emergency number is 112. Yes, that's the number. So for those who have dialed the number and attempted before, it is right there. Clearly, we're going for the papers now.
Start with Vanguard newspaper here this morning. After Ekiti, more children kidnapped in Benue. Armed herders kill 15 in Agatu. Bandits demand cough syrup, rice, 290 million naira to release 7 hostages. Abducted Ekiti pupils, school, parents, community launch crowdfunding for ransom. Police arrest 8 suspects, urge residents to stay calm. And then while at that, establish state police to fight insecurity. PDP governors tell FG.
Well, I do have the Guardian here, and the Guardian's leading with something else. Over 100 agony of road users, over 120 extortion points, double travel time, travelers pained in the southeast. I thought those were supposed to be checkpoints, but they're now calling them extortion points. 120 on the road in the southeast. That's what they're leading with, and it's on page 4 and 5, The Guardian.
This Nigeria newspaper is what is coming next, and it is essentially talking about this whole conversation around the dollar again. And look at it right there on the front page. Dollar crisis, BDC operators fight CBN over costs, withdraw services. And what do you have there? The riders say close offices in Abuja, Lagos, Kano. Bank customers decry increasing hardship, reduced purchasing power. Petrol price may rise soon, says Okpobiri. I don't think anybody wants to hear that. Please get the details. Really, get the details on pages 4 and 19 of this Nigeria newspaper.
Blueprint, it says, Matawale to Katsina elders and others, don't pitch north against other regions, says CBN fan offices relocation won't cost Tinubu 2027. Recalls Nigerians never protested over Daura varsity in Katsina. Wow.
Daily Trust is the other one here and has to do with cost of living. Nigerians decry rising cost of living. Rice costs 70,000, flour 44,000 per bag, cement 7,000 per bag. Those are the riders. You go to page 4, you get more details on that story, and you see the graphics on that page as well. Nigerians decry rising cost of living. That's what Daily Trust is leading with.
Well, the attention of the Nigerian Observer this morning is more political than not. The lead story, two actually, it looks like. Edo 2024, as you can see right there on your screen. PDP, APC, Labour Party raking nearly 1 billion naira from aspirants as primary elections near. I can imagine someone trying to convert that to dollar. That's the Nigerian Observer this morning.
Leadership Friday highlights, it says again, student loan misses January deadline. Expansion hurdles, cause of delays ascribed to an official. Students, parents press for timely commencement. So that's a big lead right there.
Oh, well, there's a story here on the front page of the Daily Times. They're leading with that matter of state police. Governors demand state police amidst spike in killings, kidnappings. There is another story that kind of like will get you thinking what's going on here. 109 billion naira fraud. I was tricked by EFCC to indict myself, ex-AGF. That's the lead on the front page of Daily Times.
The front page of the Nigerian Tribune this morning takes us back in time, so to speak. And it's talking about abducted school children. Parents lament. IGP moves AIG to Ekiti. Story is on page 37. Actually, this one is concerning, what's the more recent one in Ekiti State. 13 suspects arrested. We need help. Our children, wives, battling with life in kidnappers' den. Parents of kidnapped pupils cry out. Not something to cheer yet until we hear that the children have all been successfully rescued. Well, that's the lead story of the Nigerian Tribune this morning.
All right, so one of the key things that stuck out here in most of the dailies here is the security concern. So it's time. I don't know if it's not now. When will it ever be for the country to sit down and have that conversation about multi-level policing? Look, individuals, different groups may say all sorts. After all, we had different groups. They divided them. They have the Southern Governors Forum and Northern Governors Forum. They all have said there has to be that conversation. They've given it the backing. So whatever else anybody thinks, it has to be discussed at that platform where the country will convene that platform where that conversation has to happen. Can we continue the same way and expect a different results? You bet. We definitely cannot do that.
The Guardian newspaper stands out for me. That matter of 120 extortion points between different on that road going to the southeast. It's annoying when, as I say, when the purpose of the thing is not understood, abuse is inevitable. Now those checkpoints, that's what they're supposed to be, checking for different things, ensuring the security of the travelers on the road. But this is what's been captioned: extortion points. So at every point in time you move from here, you're seeing the next one, it's extortion that's happening there. And gladly, the front page is not saying who is extorting what or who are manning those points, but it's saying 120. Isn't that too much? The authorities need to look into this. At what point can we have a straight route without anybody stopping you to ask for one thing or the other? What are they even checking? And sometimes when you get there, you just flash the light into the vehicle. You're wondering, what exactly are they checking? Can they read?
They can't tell you what they're looking for.
Maybe they've devised a means to read the mind's construction on the face.
Well, we have to find a way because, yes, they need to do their jobs, while that's it. Because, what do we rather have? People kidnap people along the road and don't get any stoppage or anything. So
no, I'm not saying they should leave the road. I'm not saying there shouldn't be any checkpoints. But they shouldn't be extortion points.
Well, if extorted, then definitely that's not right.
Certainly. Well, something very, very concerning, no doubt. But my pick this morning, guys, is on the front page of the Blueprint newspaper, particularly the lead story. You remember the conversation we had yesterday with the Minister of Information and National Orientation telling us about national values and all. It seems that the Blueprint newspaper is leading in that regard this morning. Don't pitch north against other regions. It is coming from a former governor to Katsina elders and a number of other people. And the writers says CBN fan offices relocation won't cost Tinubu 2027. Recalls Nigerians never protested over Daura varsity in Katsina. So, well, I think it's about time we had that elite consensus that we've been talking about. So it's like from one elite to another now. When are we going to have that conversation, guys? When is everyone going to sit down and say, look, there is no north-south, there's just one Nigeria. We've lived like this together for what? More than 100 years now. And it's about time we got to realize that we are one nation. We are one nation, and we've been in colonial rule, we've been out of colonial rule, we've been in military government, we've been in civilian government, and now we are where we are today. We are one nation. Can we cascade all of that information, that particular sentiment to every Nigerian, irrespective of tribe or tongue, quoting from the first national anthem that we ever had? Let's not pitch ourselves against one another, because at the end of the day, we already intermarry. We work together. Insecurity knows no skin texture. Poverty doesn't know any tribe or religion. All of our sentiments are nothing when the realities of our lives confront us in the face. That's my take from that Blueprint newspaper, guys.
All right, so we'll be back and then take you through what we've got for you this morning. So hang on. Don't go away.
So, there is a small problem. Despite all the entertaining ads we've created for you, some of you still haven't tried our services. Come on. First of all, we are a licensed microfinance bank. Sorry about that. For instance, you can open a business account with us and get our POS with it. It's good for your business.
99.99% reliable.
I love it. Our card, it dey work.
My money no dey hang.
You can open a business or personal account with us in minutes.
I no body na.
daga wannan kujera.
Our customer care is available. Abby? So, when it comes to reliability, security, convenience, and speed, you only need one bank.
Join millions of happy customers. Download the MoneyPoint app or find an agent near you to get started.
This ad is the MoneyPoint ad. Don't forget that.
The Commission will conduct by-elections and rerun elections in 26 states of the Federation. In 9 states, 2 senators, 4 members of the House of Representatives, and 3 members of state houses of assembly will be elected in by-elections to replace members who passed on or resigned their memberships of the national and state assemblies. In other states, rerun elections will take place at designated constituencies or polling units as ordered by the election petition appeal tribunals. In handling such a huge national assignment, the Commission cannot do it alone. That is why we seek to mobilize every national asset, including the Nigerian Air Force. It is a realization of this objective that the law empowers the Commission to seek the support of security, intelligence, and law enforcement agencies in the delivery of materials and the protection of election officials. We seek the support of the Nigerian Air Force to expeditiously deliver materials to 3 locations in the Northeast, Southeast, and the Southwest geopolitical zones of the country.
All right, welcome back. So yes, indeed, we're going to take a look at the forthcoming by-elections and rerun elections in 9 states and thereabouts. So there's a sequence, right? So can we have a look at that? I mean, different there. You have the ones for state constituencies, federal constituencies. They're all listed there such that you can have a look. And then just so you know, but yes, security has gone ahead and deployed across board. They expect everything to go in that particular fashion. So we'll bring that to you soon. But we do have Mr. Oluwole Osaze Uzi, who himself is a former Director of Voter Education and Publicity for INEC. He is a senior lawyer, Attorney General, and Commissioner for Justice for Edo State. He joins us this morning virtually. Good morning. Thank you for joining us on the program today. Okay, so as things stand, we know different questions and scenarios about what will happen to security. We've seen how the IGP, the president, all giving directives in terms of what to expect. So could you start by telling us, usually, how does INEC consider these kind of scenario when you're going into elections with this kind of mindset and expectation and questions from Nigerians about what will happen about security?
Yes, there are 2 aspects to the security issue. You heard the INEC chairman there talk about the use of security for the deployment of materials, personnel and materials to some far-flung areas. The second one is election security on election day or in the build-up to the election. I guess your question pertains to the latter, and that is on election day. The security agents have a critical role to play to ensure that, first of all, election materials arrive, that thugs and other non-state actors don't come to disrupt the process. But in doing so, they must be quite professional. And the worry in some areas is that some security agents or agencies can be used to subvert the will of the people, to prevent people of particular persuasions from not going to the polling units or not voting in a particular way. And we saw that happen in some states, or they stand by when unruly people, thugs come and do whatever they have to do. Now, that is a very worrisome thing. That's a thing of concern, because the security agents are definitely needed, but they must be impartial and they must be professional and they must carry out their duty in accordance with the Electoral Act and all relevant laws laws of engagement, which is that you secure the process, you ensure that the process goes on smoothly, but you do not do anything to impugn on the process. I recall that in Rivers State 4 years ago, the role of security agents was called to question, where they now took over the collation of results. They tried to take over the collation of results. That is a statutory constitutional duty left to the Independent National Electoral Commission. So everybody has their own to play. That's to secure the election. INEC is to conduct the election.
But I think sometimes it can be frustrating for those who are watching from a distance, who think, well, they expect INEC, security, all those agencies to work together and deliver it can't be 100% perfect, but at least a substantially compliant, as they say, legally elections, particularly this one coming up tomorrow, not excluded. So how does INEC usually feel, or have they ever felt frustrated when they do all the things they can and then they get to areas, sometimes, your agents are harassed or kidnapped, and then on the day particularly, you find it very, very challenging to conduct elections. Do they ever think, what more can be done if we've done all we can do, and then this at the end don't have it, quote, all covered?
Yes, you're quite right. There's supposed to be a symbiotic relationship. As I said earlier, the security have their role and INEC has its own role, and they're supposed to work closely together to deliver on the process. It's such that it has now been statutorily entrenched in the Electoral Act. Rules are spelled for the security agents, especially the armed forces. They are their last line of defense when it comes to security. The police are the first line of defense. They're the coordinating agency. And apart from the statutory laid down procedures, there's also the Interagency Consultative Committee on Election Security access. And now that is an INEC initiative to say, look, let us all sit down together, election managers, election administrators, and the security agents, and work towards performing our roles. And let us spell out logistics deployment. Let us ensure that there are not too many security agents in one place and another, to coordinate the thing, basically. And that has worked fairly well. Yes, there have been testing times between security agents and the commission. If depending on the perspective you look at it from, sometimes some people feel the security agents are overbearing and over enthusiastic in performing their roles. So sometimes, for example, when they say restriction of movements, even when INEC officials or monitors are going around, they stop them and delay them until maybe clearance comes from higher authorities. That happens. But at the same time, the security agents say, look, we're there to secure the process and ensure the process goes well. And sometimes they accuse INEC officials of not doing the right things or doing things that will endanger the process. So sometimes it can be testing, they can have testing times at times, but generally I think they work fairly well together. But we hope that in this election, there'll be that harmonious relationship so that each will undertake its own responsibility and deliver on the 29 states that the elections will hold.
Having attended that meeting yourself severally, so from what you've seen and the results and the kind of feedback you get from people, the electorate themselves, do you think that meeting is achieving the kind of results it was set to achieve?
I believe it is. Without those excess meetings at all levels, by the way, right from a national level to the state level and local government levels, without those meetings, then things would be a lot more uncoordinated. We might have more difficult things. Yes, there are testing times in the fields. Yes, there are disagreements between the parties sometimes, especially when you do a post-election analysis of what went wrong, especially where the accusations of either party not playing the role it's supposed to play. And sometimes it can be frank, robust. I recall after about 7 years ago, after the situation in Rivers State, the INEC top brass of INEC had to meet the top brass of the armed forces under the auspices of the NSA. It went that far. And some decisions were taken, robust decisions were had. And I think coming out of that meeting, they were able to go back to Rivers and the affected states and conduct the elections. So yes, as I said, it can be testing. The relationship is not always smooth sailing, but I think there's a level of, I use the word patriotism, there's a level of professionalism so we must deliver. And although people often say that at the higher levels, Yes, you have this harmonious thing, you speak the grammar, you say the things you want to say, but when it comes to the field on election day, you see a different, find a different scenario. So those accusations are sometimes there, but there's no other choice. What do we do without the Interagency Consultative Committee? How else do you go about it? I don't think you have a choice.
So Sazazi, the INEC is going ahead to conduct this rerun elections in 9 states, and there are many who would feel that INEC should have slowed down a bit to see maybe some cases cleared out, because there are still some cases in court around the previous elections, centered around the previous election, not necessarily petitions. Should INEC have waited just a little bit longer?
By the way, I think it's 26 states. Elections will be conducted in 26 states. It's a hodgepodge. There are some elections arising out of resignation or death. You recall, for example, that the chief of staff to the president resigned his seat in the House of Representatives, for example. So there are those who resigned, there are those who died, then there are those specifically the tribunals ordered rerun elections in those cases. And when the tribunal does that, even the law for replacement, you have to do it within a certain number of days, usually 90 days. So these things will be completed within 90 days. And I think for efficiency, that's why they lumped all these ones they could into this time. But as far as I'm aware, all election petitions arising out of the 2023 elections have been disposed of, because the law says it's 180 days at the tribunals, 60 days at the Court of Appeal, and those that go on to the Supreme Court like governorship cases, it's also 60 days. So it's been more than a year. We've had 180 to 120, that gives like 300 days. So all the ones arising have been dealt with, except pre-election. Even pre-election cases have time limits. So I believe that all of them have been dealt with. This is an opportune time, because they must attempt to conduct the elections within the time frame, either stipulated by the tribunals in their judgments or within the Electoral Act.
But some parties are already, let's use the case in point, Plateau State, where some of the PDP, for instance, is excluded from participating in that election, and there are already protests out there. INEC, of course, INEC will say they are a law-abiding organization and they will follow whatever the courts say. But should INEC not just give it a little more time? See how that can be resolved.
Well, the question is how much time. Look, some of this, if the new cases, they'll go all the way to the Supreme Court. So how much time are you going to give to it? That is the danger in that. And don't forget that the tribunals state that elections must be conducted in these constituencies of polling units within 90 days. So if you give it more time, you'll be going outside the stricture or outside the order of the court. That's the contempt of the tribunal or of the court. I'm not aware that there's fresh litigation in Plateau. There may be, but I'm not aware of any fresh litigation in Plateau. And INEC, I guess, is interpreting what the court said, that excluding the PDP or whichever party is excluded, because sometimes the court gives orders, go ahead and conduct a rerun or a by-election, excluding X party or Y party. If that's the case, then you have no choice. Only a superior court can set that aside. So you cannot wait indefinitely. You must get a cut-off date, a cut-off point. And I think INEC acting within the Electoral Act and within the dictates of the tribunal and court orders.
Is it possible that, or what happens in a scenario wherein if INEC goes ahead and then these persons go to court and say, look, we've been wrongfully excluded from the elections? Does that then mean, okay, it depends on what the courts rule anyway, but that's a possibility, isn't it?
Yes, it's a possibility. People have gone to court for all sorts of reasons, good reason, bad reason, or no reason, but they end up in court. And that's why especially the Supreme Court and to a lesser extent Court of Appeal have damnified certain litigants and their lawyers in every cost, 10 million, 20 million naira, because they look, there are certain cases that should not come to court. Yes, but sometimes the court vindicates litigants when they say, look, you shouldn't have excluded us. Yes, that's a possibility, but there's nothing you can do about that. So you're torn between obeying the court order or waiting for the process to run its course. and any fresh case coming on will not take its normal course and go all the way to the Supreme Court. So you might find yourself in a situation where you are dealing with a matter regarding one election, 2023 election, and this case will last in 2027. So you're still in court in 2027 when another round of elections and the tenure has elapsed, another round of elections are due. That is the issue. That's the danger in just holding on and just waiting indefinitely.
Well, Mr. Sazozi, there are some people watching us now who should be voting tomorrow in any of the 26 states that you mentioned, be it for federal or state constituencies, as the case may be. And Chamberlain cited the issue of insecurity in those states earlier. But then perhaps by way of dealing with that or trying to address some of that insecurity issues, what the IGP said when they announced that there will be a restriction of movement, restriction of all forms of vehicular movement on roads, waterways, and other forms of transportation from about 12 a.m. to 6 p.m. in these 26 states. What would be your word to people? And how would you suggest that they deal with the issues in any part of the country? It is happening in Lagos. We may not have as much insecurity issues in Lagos, but it's also happening in Plateau State. And of course, we all know what is happening on the plateau at this moment. What would be your word to those people who need to go vote, who may be a little iffy about stepping out?
I'm sorry, I lost the first part of your question. There's lots of order there. But the advice, it's part of the issue about how valid, how legitimate an election is, deals with the issue of how free were people to go out and cast their votes. If there's a climate of danger and
Mr.
people don't turn out,
I can barely hear you. I don't know if anyone else can hear you. And I know that you've been talking for quite a bit, but can you hear me?
I heard the second part of your question about how the people plateau. What word would we have for them? I heard that bit. I lost the first part, though. I don't know whether you can hear me now.
Yeah, I can hear you now. But I was just asking, what do people who need to go to these states, to go out to vote in each of the 26 states that have been mentioned, especially concerning security or insecurity issues, those who may be iffy about going out to vote because of the concerns, irrespective of the assurances of the IGP and the restriction of movements, what would be your counsel to them?
Well, let me be very honest. If I was in one of those spots where the security is not guaranteed, I would be very, very worried, extremely worried. But we have to take the word of the Inspector General of Police and the security agencies. We have to take them for their words. But caution is the key word here. I think we'll look at see how things are and be cautious, be security conscious and cautious about everything that you do. If there's any sign of any danger, it's not worth risking one's life because one wants to exercise their franchise. So if there's any danger, then it's to beat a hasty retreat and monitor the situation. But I encourage people to vote because there's some people now who maybe they know they will not win the election, so they discourage other supporters from coming out while they encourage their own supporters to come out. And by default, the person who's not win an election gets elected. So just caution. But please go out and exercise your franchise. But if there's any risk or serious risk, if there's a likelihood of a breach of the peace, then I think it's a bit of hasty retreat and go home.
Well, talking about caution, and I also heard the proviso or the caveat that you ended with. In what ways are the caution that you are recommending likely to affect the normal voting procedure that people would normally go through? Perhaps you want to remind us what are the things that people should do before they go to vote, on the day of voting, and after voting. And in what way does this caution you're advising come into play?
I think the first thing is that if you don't have your permanent voter's card, there's no point venturing out at all, except maybe you are a party agent or you're a security official or you're a journalist, in which case you have to be accredited and you ensure you have your cards and your tag with you all the time. For the ordinary citizens like us, you must have your permanent voter's cards, and I'll encourage them to go today to ascertain, if they're not so sure, to ascertain their polling unit. because there's no point wandering around the city and walking around looking for your polling unit on election day. People might say it's a suspicious movement when they see you going paving up and down. So it's to ensure you have your permanent voters card and you go to your unit and cooperate with both the security agents and the INEC officials. Ensure that you just go straight there and you obey all lawful directives. You go there, show them your card. We are sure that it will read by the machine and then get accredited, get your ballot paper, and then you go. It encourages people, or people are CSO, everybody encourages people to stay behind and protect your vote. But depending on the security situation in your area, I think this is where caution comes in. You read the weather, you read and see how things are. If it appears safe, then stay behind and you might wait for the close of polls and the counting and ensure that the proper things are done. Their results are uploaded and they're also pasted on the walls of the, if it's a public building, on the walls of the public building, and that the IREV is posted so I can watch and see it on the IREV as well. So it's the same procedure, the same process as was used in the 2023 election itself. But the assurance that although IREV did not work so well in that last election for the presidential election, the assurance is that for these elections it will be used, and so we have to give the Commission benefit of the doubt. But where anything is going on towards, I think it behoves you to tell the INEC officials, no, this is not how you said it will be, or this is not what the INEC chairman said, this is not what the resident electoral commissioner said. He said you should do it this way or that way. So anything untowards, I think it's important to report it as soon as you can.
And that's a very, very instructive thing that you just mentioned there, for the people to be part of the process of ensuring the sanctity of the process and all. But then you have also invariably talked about the trust deficit that is greatly depleted as at this moment. Now, people who don't trust the process are expected to go out and vote. And it doesn't seem like much voter education went out from anyone concerning these particular elections, other than, just sparingly, perhaps among the political parties, not even with most of their constituents. So how do we build that confidence? How do we help people get the assurance that their vote will even matter in the first place? What kind of voter turnout do you expect?
Let me put it in context. Generally, voter turnout for by-elections are not very encouraging. It's usually below the average for general elections. That's a given. I recall in one of the elections about a decade ago in Lagos, I think it was Bejuleki, there was a 2% turnout. I think that's about the lowest we've received. And even then, there was no restriction of movement. So there's no question of, people were worried. And in Bejuleki, you are in Lagos. You know how it's probably the safest part of the country, one of the safest parts of Nigeria and Lagos State. So, and there was no restriction of movement. The roads are fairly good, accessible. I think studies should be undertaken to see why these things happen. So generally, contextually, by-elections don't attract the same kind of attention as presidential elections and governorship elections. So that's it. But you made reference to that trust deficit, and that, I think, is the greatest challenge before the Commission and before stakeholders in the process. Yes, 2023 has come, it has gone, it has left in its wake, and the dust, I'm not so sure, has fully settled, but fortunately it's settling a bit. It's already 1 year since that election held. But the trust deficit is still there. INEC must now go ahead, regardless of the outcome in the tribunals, INEC must now go ahead to try to rebuild trust. We saw videos of certain people destroying their PVCs, their voters' cards. It showed the angst, it showed the frustration and the impotence that they felt that, look, our votes did not count this time, it probably will never count. But we have no choice. What choice is there? It's a rhetorical question. We have no choice. So we must. And I think everybody else, stakeholders, have a role to play, and that's why I guess you're beaming light on it, and that's why we're here talking about it. We ought to perform our own roles, but the Commission has a duty. But over and above everybody else, the political parties have a duty. They seek power. They seek to put their people in positions. We've complained about this times with our number. We still have the same problem. They are not doing enough in terms of voter education and enlightenment. INEC can only give voter education on a neutral perspective and give as to processes. They have a duty to say, look, this is my party, this is what we stand for, this is our candidate, this is what we're going to do if we're elected. So they have that primary duty, but they're not doing enough in that regard. The media is doing a wonderful job about it, and as I said, that's why we're here. We must rebuild, continue and start to rebuild confidence. And that's the dilemma for CSOs now, is that, look, they were a bit let down. They felt a bit let down by the commission. They felt a bit let down by what eventually transpired, especially with the issue of IREV. And people feel strongly that the Supreme Court went the way it did. Rather than strengthen the process, it's as if the process has been compromised somewhat, in the sense that you said technology, people believe the technology will be like a cure-all, and you did not deploy the way it should have been deployed. We must try now and hold INEC accountable. We must try to, if it means tweaking the laws and ensuring that in clear terms, the use of technology is mandatory, such that no matter how you interpret it, the mandatory nature of technology, and without elections, without accreditation, without use of the IREV, is invalid, and clearly so, and will be voided, then maybe more confidence will begin to return to the process. But just prior to 2023 elections, I thought there was a lot of confidence in the process. We have to now, we're not yet back there, but we now have to keep block by block, brick by brick, try to rebuild confidence in the process.
Tomorrow's elections, will INEC, or should INEC consider that as some sort of test in terms of whether or not the confidence that the people had is still there and where they need to improve?
Sorry, I didn't hear the first part of it.
So I'm asking, do you think that tomorrow's elections, should INEC consider it as some sort of tests in terms of measuring where they are with the confidence that the people have on them?
Oh, certainly. Every election, I really, in some way, just before coming on air, that INEC said it's a litmus test. It looks like every election is a litmus test, but this time more than ever before, this is the first broad-based elections, 26 states that INEC is conducting post 2023. And if you look at social media, there's still a lot of angst out there as to what transpired, how things. Even those who were victorious in the elections were not, especially the presidential, were not so happy about. Some might say tainted the fact that you did not, regardless of how the election will have turned out, it would have been so good if the IREV was fully utilized, if there were no technical glitches. And that's one of the problems, because people still don't know what those technical glitches are. People out there still believe that it was a deliberate thing. Maybe so, maybe not. We can never know unless in a comes and there's some kind of postmortem, there's some kind of analysis, and say, this is what happened. These things do happen. It's technology, things happen. We have done all we can to ensure that such glitches don't occur ever again, such that there's a plan A, there's a plan B, there's a plan C. But in case this glitch happens, we'll switch over to the next plan or next etc. So these we just have to keep rebuilding it. I think INEC realizes that this is a test. We have the Edo and Ondo elections coming up. Those will also be further tests, but the turnout of those ones will be affected by what happens tomorrow, what happens with these by-elections and rerun elections. So yes, it is a test, and if it goes well, and I hope it does go well, then you can look back and say, look, yes, 2023 happened, we made some mistakes, we've corrected the mistakes of 2023. Trust us, this will keep going, keep improving. And don't forget that Edo 4 years ago in 2020 was the first full white election that IREV was used, for example, and that boosted confidence, that boosted morale, that boosted the belief by the people in the process. But somehow, and the subsequent elections in Ekiti, in Osun, in Ondo, after the 2020 governorship election, confidence was extremely, extremely high. But so this is the first stepping stone towards that now. If it goes well, I expect it to, then going to Edo, Ondo, we hope that the confidence will have sufficiently returned.
You know, speaking about it going well, I know we made reference to this in part about those who are excluded from elections, but I'd like to read the statement that was put out by the secretary of CUPP, and it was talking specifically about Plateau North Senatorial District, and they are accusing INEC of trying to deliberately disenfranchise a group of Nigerians who are supposed to come on and vote. Now, part of their statement says that INEC hinged its refusal to manifest PDP on the ballot papers on a judgment of the election panel of the Court of Appeal that has already been discredited by the Supreme Court as miscarriage of justice, unjust, and obnoxious. So they're not happy with that. Now, they went on to say that already the grounds that the Court of Appeal had no jurisdiction to entertain a pre-election matter. They think INEC don't have any excuse not to include the PDP on the ballot. It says, at no point was PDP barred from representing its candidates for any by-election, and as a matter of convention, a by-election is meant for those who had participated in the earlier election. So they think that INEC should have included the party's name on the ballot because there's no reason not to. I mean, from a legal perspective, what do you think?
I'm careful not to comment on matters I'm not exactly privy to. I've not read either the judgment or even the full statement that was issued, so it's a bit unfair. So I can only speak in a broad perspective. INEC has a legal department. There are several senior advocates. People don't realize at least 3 senior advocates in that legal department. So they study all these judgments. Every lawyer who handles petitions or cases on behalf of INEC is obliged to return with certified true copies of those judgments, and it's analyzed by the legal department and then passed on to the commission itself. The commission has several lawyers as well. It has a legal services committee that oversees and superintends what the legal department does. So they will study this, and they are human beings, so they make mistakes sometimes, but almost invariably they'll study this and interpret what they think it says, and then go ahead and employ it. I don't know what PP, I don't know what perspective they are coming from. I don't know. Yes, it is correct. I like that word. The Court of Appeal judgment has been discredited, but it has not been overturned. The Supreme Court said, look, you were wrong, especially regarding the subsequent elections, you were wrong. But the National Assembly and State Assembly petitions stopped at the Court of Appeal. Fortunately for the governor, his case went to the Supreme Court, and it took the Supreme Court to say no. The attitude and the judgment were delivered by the Court of Appeal in the governorship was wrong, and the other State Assembly and National Assembly were predicated on the same reason by that same Court of Appeal. But as it stands, that is the final judgment. Court of Appeal judgment is the final judgment on the issue. They're not likely to revisit it even if an application is made. So as it stands, that judgment is final. It's not infallible because it is not wrong. It's actually, from what the Supreme Court says, it's actually wrong. But the infallibility comes from the finality of that judgment. So until it's upturned, and it cannot now be upturned, then we have to live with it for the next 4 years, regrettably. But it was a wrong decision from extrapolating from the governorship election and the reasoning of the Supreme Court. But they did not, and they did not say they could not, because the case wasn't before them, say that the State House of Assembly and the National Assembly didn't overturn the judgments of the Court of Appeal in that regard. Only one appeal went to the Supreme Court, and that was that of the governorship. So it had to be specific to that case. Unfortunately, that's where we find ourselves in.
You know, Mr. Sazozi, you being a lawyer, that matter indeed is one that a lot of people are going around that particular point, questioning how one thing would work for one evidence or one case. You said for this particular case, we're saying that A is right, and that same matter in another case becomes wrong. So there will have to be some clarity on that. But the question I wanted to ask you is, having seen this kind of situation that INEC has in some way or the other thrown up based on the elections conducted in the last elections, because the PDP will tell you that INEC observed the Congress that they had. That's the argument that they have back and forth. The one faction will say they were not there, the other one says they are there. But be that as it may, what would INEC be doing different to ensure that we don't have this kind of situation in this rerun that they're doing? Do you have an idea?
No, let's be clear on something. The attendance of INEC at a Congress or a convention does not validate or invalidates that Congress or convention. So it doesn't matter much. The importance is that when it goes there and observes things, its report will be taken with a high degree of seriousness by the courts. There are times that INEC has gone to monitor some congresses and the courts have said, no, you went to the wrong place. You shouldn't have monitored that one. Probably the wrong person organized it or things like that. So it does not validate or invalidate the thing. Most of these elections we're having today, did not go through primaries. They didn't go through primaries again. Only the by-elections were due to death or resignation that the parties conducted primaries. The majority of them, a lot of them, were ordered by the tribunals of course. So it only involves the parties that took part in the original election, except that some parties were specifically excluded by the court of tribunal. So it's not so much so. I think your question will probably be a lot more relevant in the governorship or other and by-election and governorship elections where primaries are required to be conducted. For example, in Edo, in February this month, primaries are going to be conducted by the parties from the INEC timetable and guidelines within this month for the governorship. So that would be more of a test, and they ought to be guided by the Supreme Court's decision. But don't forget, even the Plateau case, INEC actually, I don't think you can blame them because they attended the primaries, but there are other issues arising therefrom. But they should study that judgment, and if there are any pitfalls or any indicting feature in that, then of course lessons should be learned from that. More importantly, the parties will also learn from that.
Well, we understand that the police and the army are, some unclear about whether or not there's an attack on the Benue APC Secretariat, if they've gone there, but we're keeping tabs on that one. It's related to the by-election that will come about. We'll just double-check and get you more details as we get that one. But Ms. Uzi, do you think that INEC can ever, or we should expect a better output in terms of logistics from INEC if we don't address what the chairman has spoken about at some point when he said the country needed to have a conversation about INEC's management or capacity to handle elections at the time where it was postponed? Talking about logistics, security. Do you think we should actually sit down and decide whether or not we want to continue this way or approach it differently so that we don't ever have to deal with materials not arriving on time on election day, for the most part? Look, I think if it froze at some point, so we'll try and get that connection back. Because we do remember that the chairman of INEC has spoken at some point that the nation needed to have a conversation as to election.
But in the military era.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, thank you. In 1998, 1999 elections that ushered in this dispensation, INEC relied a lot on local governments, state governments, and they could pull on national assets. And the idea is that, look, INEC is not a federal body, it's a national body. That's why it's called national federal. So it's not owned by the federal government. It's a national thing. So you can call on all national assets. You can call on the Air Force, on the police, on local governments. So it's mobilized a lot of resources. It's a lot more difficult for you to do so now, because if a governor gives you vehicles from state government or local government now, the opposition will kick and say, look, they are given an unfair advantage. To an extent, the military is still regarded by and large as fairly neutral. So INEC relies on the Air Force and the military to help move personnel, to help move materials. It has tried different methods to ensure speedy delivery of materials. A lot of them haven't worked. Engaging the National Road Transport, National Association of Road Transport Owners, and all the different professional associations and the unions in the sector, we thought we'd do the magic, but it hasn't always worked. There are places you go to in Bayelsa, for example, in rural areas where boat owners come together and the politicians probably just go settle the leadership of the boat owners' guilds or associations. And on election day, they tell you either you double the what's due to them, or the politicians have, even against the agreement you have entered into, have commanded all the boats. So you are beholden to them. These are all the issues. And one of the plans made by INEC was to decentralize distribution of materials. So rather than go from the local government headquarters to the polling units, which can be quite a distance, they now said, okay, let us set up camps. And those camps are closer to polling units, and even the camps contain several polling units themselves in most cases. Somehow, I don't know why that hasn't always worked as well as it should. But let us watch how things go tomorrow. We're in a short of plans. A few years removed from the commission, so I don't know what new things, new developments they have brought in that will ensure that the polls open on time. But we certainly hope they do. If they do, then lessons will have been learned, and we hope we'll replicate the methodology in subsequent elections.
How insulated would you say INEC is from whatever vagaries that could discredit it? You've talked about the fact that INEC is a national body that can call on any national asset at any time, but then you are not also unaware of the issues that arose where people have a measure of distrust. So how insulated or how independent would you say INEC is in terms of its funding, in terms of its operations, in terms of whatever political influence or even judicial, whatever kind of influence that could derail or question its independence and integrity?
What I can say is that I am personally not very happy about the certain appointments, and I think CSOs have been very vocal about this. We're not so pleased about the certain appointments that have been made into critical positions, especially some recent electoral commissioners. There have been allegations of partisanship, of belonging to political parties, being members of political parties, which is contrary to the amendments of the Constitution. The Constitution says that for you to be appointed either as a resident electoral commissioner or as a national commissioner, you must be non-partisan. Unfortunately, it does not say what should happen to somebody who was partisan and has resigned, or how many years removed from partisan politics you can be before becoming appointed. So that obviously appointment of key officials compromises the integrity, impartiality, and independence of the commission. Where you have people you are beholden to those who recommend you for appointment, that is not good for the system at all. I recall that after Justice Akpata, the first pioneer INEC chairman, was elected, in his acceptance speech, he said something like, well used to saying that, look, he who pays the piper dictates the tune. But so with this commission, with the way things are, sorry, he who pays the piper has to learn to dance to the tune that the piper plays. So that's the difference. In fact, you tell me, okay, play this tune, you're giving me money, play this tune should not mean that I should be beholden to you. You should learn to dance to the tune that I play. The tune that I play should be in accordance with the law, with the requirements, with the regulations laid down for the conduct of the elections. Once you're tied to the apron strings of the person, once you're tied to or feel you owe a duty to somebody who recommended you or appointed you, then you lose your independence, and that's a danger. That's not good for the process. It's not good for the system, because of the way we are. It's different in other times where they don't have a national election body. In the UK, for example, the Electoral Commission does not conduct elections. It's conducted by local government. That's a particular European model. Most European states, local governments conduct elections. That cannot work here. It's not the way our system works. We believe in an independent national body to conduct national elections. But somebody must appoint these people. They must draw their funds from the government, from public purse, but they must go to the National Assembly to get appropriation. Unfortunately, for so many years, an envelope system was used in place, so there's nothing much anybody could do. They must go to the executive and say, look, this is money we want, and defend their budget. If it passes that stage, they must go to the National Assembly and still defend that same budget. The good thing is that once the money is appropriated, it should be sent to the Consolidated Revenue Fund. So you draw on it, you don't have to go through Ministry of Finance or any other thing.
Well, it sounds to me, Mr. Osazeuzi, that you are calling for some kind of tinkering with the laws that set up INEC so that it can escape some of these vagaries. That's conversation for some other time. We have to thank you at this time. Oluwole Osazeuzi is a former director of voter education and publicity. He's joined us virtually from Benin City. Thank you so much for your time this morning.
Thank you for having me. Pleasure.
Okay. Well, we're switching now to business. Part of the highlights of the Business Morning this morning is that FCCPC is sharing its plans for consumer rights protection. More on that with Ine John Mekwa.
Thank you so much, Ayo. And good morning, everyone. Welcome to Business Morning on Sunrise Daily. Indeed, we will be sharing some of your rights and the plan. There's, an acting leadership for the FCCPC. So we'll be sharing their plans on how to protect your rights as a consumer in Nigeria. But before we get to that, on this second day in the month of February, let's see what's happening. Good news, at least. We don't have a lot of good news when we look at the Nigeria's economy at this time, but we are glad that we have this good news that business activity picked up pace in January for the second consecutive month, marked by significant acceleration in output and new orders. And that's according to the latest Purchasing Managers Index. That's a PMI report by Stanbic IBTC. Let's put our eyes right there on the details as was released yesterday. So we see that the PMI is up. It was up in December, and a lot of people, I think myself also, we thought that it was the Christmas activities that pushed that up. But I mean, it's also up in January. Good news. We hope this sticks. So it's up to 54.5 in January from 52.7 that was recorded in December. And we know that anything above 50 points is positive. So we hope this trend continues. Now, the details of it is that new businesses recorded a sharp increase in the month of January, reaching the highest level since April 2022. So you can see some recovery going on right there. Business activities were up also at the fastest pace in 21 months across all sectors. Everybody seemed to have been captured. If we have the other points also, and this is despite optimism about the future of increases, because, of course, inflation, we're still having to deal with that. There's been increase in employment also for the period for January. Good news. However, when we talk about the inflation again, we still see that firms are struggling with staff payment, contributing to a rise in backlog of work. And we know that there's also been some layoff. Unfortunately, some multinationals have also left the country. So apparently that also be captured. Purchase price has also gone up. That's where you see inflation, the elevation in price. But there are signs of easing to the softest pace in 8 months, even though it's rising, it's not as high. It's not rising as high as it was doing last year, 2023. Currency weakness, I mean, we can't escape that, is also fueling this higher cost, obviously, because you need more naira to carry out what you used to do, to buy more raw materials, and inflation is elevated. Staff cost increase as a steady rate. Firms supporting workers are facing higher living costs, especially, I think one of the papers captured it, related to transportation, output charge, inflation, they remain elevated. But the good news is, I mean, our PMI is up for January, up now to 54.5% from 52.7%. So at least we have one reason to smile. Then another thing is, obviously, this has been in the news, the Naira has been in the news, and the CBN has been really busy this week. The central bank has eased rules on international money transfers, taking another step in freeing up its volatile foreign exchange market to attract billions of dollars being sent home by citizens. International money transfer operators, the IMOs, IMTO, they can now quote the Naira exchange rate against the dollar based on prevailing market rates in the market. And we know that this has been a complaint where we see more inflow of the dollar outside the official vaults because some individuals are not comfortable, and when they could have made more money, selling their dollar outside. So now the IMTOs are allowed to use prevailing prices, prevailing rates, and that should attract. The BDCs themselves have been saying, please capture us in the official market. We also have some supply that comes our way, so perhaps this will help. This, of course, is coming in about 24 hours since the Central Bank of Nigeria ordered banks to limit their foreign exchange exposure to curb risks to the financial system in the latest move to improve liquidity in the country's volatile currency. And so many things also happened yesterday. There was reaction from the market yesterday talking about the value of the naira. We saw that the naira appreciated 13.3%, but that was in the parallel market and not in the official market. It closed at 1,350 compared to about 1,500 the day before. But the CBN intervention aimed at the correction seems not to be, catching up with the official market, because it still closed at 1,461 naira 90 kobo for a dollar at NAFEX, that's the official Nigerian Autonomous Exchange Market. Represented 6 naira 31 compared to 1,455 the previous day. So looks like the CBN still has some work to do, even though the impacts of the recent circulars, some people say perhaps the CBN will send a circular to say no more circulars. I don't think that will happen, because we have a lot of work to do. The naira is still losing value and affecting everyone. We saw that in the PMI, cost of living still going up, wages losing value, purchasing power reducing. So something still has to be done on it. And of course, we'll stay on that story. Now, from there, we talk about health, because if the workers are not healthy, their welfare is not taken care of, then who will do the work? Who will work out the PMI? The Minister of Health and Social Welfare, Professor Ali Pate, said that women in health sector have the capacity to address the JAPA syndrome confronting the sector. Professor Ali Pate made this comment during the inaugural launch of Women in Healthcare Network, which was in Lagos yesterday. The minister says that medical practitioners who've relocated to acquire more knowledge have the opportunity to return home and bring back incredible value that would improve healthcare services in the country. And good to know that the visionary of this was once a JAPA and back here. Let's give you the details.
Women across diverse healthcare fields converge on Harbour Point in Lagos Island for the official launch of Women in Healthcare Network, a platform to connect with medical professionals with one collective goal: to build a better health sector.
With every shy girl out there,
The Minister of Health and Social Welfare, Professor Ali Pate, chairman of Nigerians in Diaspora Commission, amongst others, are here to support community of women in the medical space. The brain behind WIHCN initiative is Dr. Mudukbe Elebute Odunsi, who specializes in internal medicine, hematology. She says the group is ready to build a formidable workforce that will reshape the industry.
The most important thing, the one I'm most passionate about, is that we're going to run mentoring programs to really help the younger generation understand that there's a lot that we can do in healthcare here in Nigeria. And we need to do it. We need to do it to excellent standards.
The minister and the NITCAM chairman believe the women's medical role cannot be ignored and promise that government will collaborate with the network to deliver quality services.
When we talk about the human resources and the JAPA, I will dare say that the women in healthcare are an important piece of the puzzle in addressing that. Because if you look at the drivers of it, you might find that, in fact, the attachment, the convening, there's a lot that you can be able to do. And as we train more, hopefully we'll return more. And for those who have gone, bring them back like Dr. Modupe has now come back.
For the Diaspora Commission, we're hoping that we can resuscitate what we call the Diaspora Professional Healthcare Initiative, where all our doctors, medical practitioners can come together and decide, on making an impact collectively. So we look forward to working with you. We call on everyone to support you. And I know that with this network, you will change a lot of narratives in the healthcare industry in Nigeria.
The likes of Dr. Stella Adadevo, who sacrificed her life to curb the spread of Ebola in Nigeria, cannot be forgotten. And the federal government calls for more recognition for women.
In 2014, the indomitable Dr. Ameyo Stella Adadevo took a courageous stand that ultimately cost her life to prevent the insidious spread of Ebola. We were also witnesses to the remarkable dedication of Dr. Amarachukwu Allison, who identified Nigeria's first case of COVID-19. This testament underscores the non-negotiable role women play in safeguarding the health and well-being of our nation, reminding us that their resilience and courage are indispensable pillars in the fortification of our collective health security systems.
With the launch of Women in Healthcare Network, the federal and state government believe the initiative will go a step further to elevate the standard of healthcare in Nigeria.
So now let's talk about your right as a consumer in Nigeria. We know that in conformity with plans to restructure and reposition critical agencies in the country, the President Bola Tinubu, recently replaced the leadership of the Federal Competition and Consumer Protection Commission. And now we have at the helm of affairs, Dr. Adamu Ahmed Abdullahi. He's the acting Executive Vice Chairman of Federal Competition and Consumer Protection Commission, FCCPC. Joins us from our Abuja studio. Good morning, Dr. Abdullahi. Thank you so much for your time.
Good morning, Ini. It's my pleasure being here.
Great. So I guess the first place to start would be, what are you bringing? What's different from what the former administration was doing, or enhanced plans, I may say?
Really, we cannot be doing anything differently. The act that establishes the FCCPC is very clear on our mandate, which is the protection of the interest of both consumer and service provider. So what we do is to more or less protect the interest of the consumer, and we just continue in line with what the former EVC has been doing, but we just have to do it even to a larger scale. Have you heard of saying, soldier come, soldier go, barrack remain? So we will continue our work to the best of our ability. The FCCPA of 2018 has clearly mandated the FCCPC to be the apex regulatory body in as much as competition and consumer protection is involved in this country. And that is what we'll continue doing to the best of our ability. It doesn't matter who is at the helm of affairs. We're trying to build institutions, not individuals. And as the former EVC said, or tweeted in his account the day of his removal, he has left soldiers behind, and we are the full soldiers that will continue the work. We give all assurance to all Nigerians that nothing has changed. We'll continue working to the best of ability. We have the capacity and we have the will.
So just as you referred to him, Mr. Irukera there, we know that he was very passionate about the loan apps, and he had a plan for the loan apps. For instance, wanted to create a new regulatory framework. Since you're continuing in that, could you let us in on this new framework for the loan apps?
I've been heading the operations as Executive Commissioner of Operations all the while, under Irukera's leadership. So therefore, all the investigations regarding the loan apps and all the developments of the regulations were done with me as part of the team. So therefore, nothing stops our continuity in that respect. We'll continue in that line. We'll develop the additional regulatory requirement that are needed. What we want to do is to ensure that the interest of the consumer is protected. You see, we're working on this project along with the CBN, which is the core competence in finance in Nigeria. Of course, the Data Protection Commission is also there, Human Rights Commission, EFCC, ICPC. You see, in developing these regulations, we carried these other regulators also along, and we did what we were supposed to do and came up with these interim regulations that now we know where these loan apps operate from. Formally, they have no fixed address really, and when they do what they used to do, there was no way you can put names to places or catch whoever it is that is responsible. It took us a long time before we could even identify where it was they were operating from. Before we did that, found that most of them were maybe in Lagos. I was part of that raid. We went in the dawn raid and found out what it was that they were really doing, and really brought them to book. In that, this data protection issue is of immense importance. We have to protect the data of our people in Nigeria. What they used to do is immediately you get a loan from them, they have access to your phone numbers, so they can now go ahead and harass your family, your employer, and things like that. People lost their jobs. people lost their families. In fact, people even lost their lives. We don't want that kind of harassment. What we want is to have a safe place where they can operate. In the sense that from the days of COVID, we have found out that these loan apps play a very vital role in the financing of individuals and small-scale industries. So therefore, they play a vital role. There is no way we can stop them from what they are doing because they are filling in a gap that exists in the system. So, but then they have to do it also taking into cognizance the fact that they have to protect the interests of the people whom they give loans to. That is all we're trying to ensure. Of course, they keep coming up with new ways and means. So we have to now look at these things, and as they develop, we also have to be a step ahead of them. And that's what we try to do. And that's how we have to look at these regulations that we already have and make them even more consistent with the current realities. And that is what we're working on at the moment. As you said, about 20 years started, and we continue in that direction.
Yeah, so I know that one struggle has been finding a balance because, as you noted, these loan apps, they do feel a vacuum, you know, in the economic space. But you also have the disadvantages. So now, how do you balance the rights of the consumer, who is supposed to be a customer, but in some cases have refused to pay back or are unable to pay back? You know, so that's a customer not living up to the expectation, but also still protecting their rights, which is where the loan apps themselves come from. So how do you find a fine balance between the rights of these two parties?
It's a delicate balance, and as you have also noticed, this role that they play is of immense importance to the economy. So therefore, what we do is we don't give ourselves the wisdom. We know that we don't know it all. That is why CBN is on that team. That's why the Data Protection Board is on the Commission is on that team, and that's why we have Human Rights Commission. So therefore, we put heads together and find solutions. Yes, they give loans. Yes, they must collect their loans back, but also not go ahead and destroy families and lives in the process of collecting back their loans. So that is what this, all these regulations that we're coming up with try to balance, and that is what we'll continue to do.
All right, recently you launched the Don't Burn Their Future campaign. And I remember I went through that report when you came to Lagos and all of that. And you also have the need to balance, there's an advisory that, you know, individuals under the age of 18 shouldn't smoke. Smoking is bad for your health. But I mean, you also have customers of cigarettes and all of that whose rights you are also protecting. So how do you hope to balance that in the face of your campaign of Don't Burn Their Future campaign?
That's the essence of that campaign. You see, the figures are just so disheartening. If over 4.5 million Nigerians as of now smoke, and over 3 million of those now smoke what they call smokeless cigarettes, and we found out that these are not any more healthier than the normal cigarette that people have consumed over the years. And plus the fact that we are losing so much in that the younger generation are getting into this bad habit, and before you know it, it gets better when you start at a late age. But when you start early, when people start smoking early, it gets to their health much earlier in life. Government is spending so much on healthcare to make sure that these people are healthy. The economy is suffering because when they are not well, they cannot go to work. And we have to really come in and do something about it. Despite the fact that, yes, tobacco is a big industry and it contributes to the economy of the country, but also this harm that it does to the health of the public is of immense concern to us. And that is why we came up with this campaign that says, don't burn their future. That means don't sell cigarette or cigarette products to the younger age. Don't smoke in their presence. Don't send them to buy cigarettes for you as a parent or as a guardian or as an elder. So essentially, the campaign would be geared towards all sectors of society, the youth themselves, the parents, the guardians, but more especially the retailers. These are the people that sell the cigarettes. So they would know that it is unlawful for them to sell cigarettes to the youth and the underaged. And as you said earlier, this is a campaign that has been ongoing for so long, but we want to add a lot of spice to it now. There is a 13-episode film that will start playing on your channels very soon, and I mean TV channels very soon, and radio, of course, and then we'll also have adverts in that direction that would now inform youth and the general public of the dangers inherent in tobacco smoking. So therefore, this is a campaign that will last for about 2 years from now, and we believe that by the time it is over, since we are going to keep monitoring and evaluating as we get along, we would see the effect that we're going to have on the general public. What we intend to do is to hold town hall meetings where we bring in the youth, the parents, the guardians, the retailers themselves together. And we are doing this along with the tobacco manufacturers because we're not doing anything that is against them. What we're trying to do is to save the future of our children, which is a given in any society. By the time you have any sort of malaise that attracts the youth and touches their health, is something that is of immense worry to the authorities. And of course, we are the protectors of the consumers are at the forefront of that worry. The Ministry of Health has come in, as you have noticed at that launching, very strongly in support of us, because as from 2015, no, that's 2005, there has always been a National Anti-Tobacco Act anyway. That is what really banned smoking in public places, in confined places, and things like that. And I think that's something that has been adhered to strictly in this country. But then this issue of selling tobacco to the youth and the underage has been of concern to us. And we have also come up with telephone phone-in that people can now call in when they have issues of cigarette smoking and talk to experts. That's how the civil society organizations have come into the CSOs. And since they have the knowledge of what actually this tobacco smoking does to people, they can now counsel people that have not been want to stop smoking but have not been able to do so. So essentially, that's the crux of the matter, and that's what we intend to do in this campaign.
And I think you also capture those who are not smokers, but have to endure. If you're in a space of smokers and yet you're a non-smoker.
What we call second smoking, that is.
Exactly. So people who are exposed to it.
Yeah, sure. Those are second smokers, and that's what we intend to do also.
All right. Thank you so much. Acting Executive Vice Chairman of Federal Competition and Consumer Protection Commission, that's the FCCPC, Dr. Adamu Ahmed Abdullahi. Thank you for your time this morning, and wish you the best in your campaign.
Thank you very much, Ini. I appreciate this. Thank you.
All right, let's head to the markets now and look at the numbers, beginning obviously with the NGX right here in Nigeria. There we have the number right. So the markets recovered yesterday. The stock market in Nigeria was up, closed at 1.63%. Went from, I think, 101 to 102,802.25. Equity are still around that 56 trillion naira. Activity, we saw some green at on the activity charts yesterday. We see for more than about 15% when you look at the volume. Thank you so much. About 15% at 861 million for volume. Value was more than 12 billion naira, almost 50% right there, 45.95. And deals, however, dropped, was still very high, as we can see, at 12,857. Looking at the sectors, we see the figures are back, recovering from there. 7.82% for banking, consumer goods, also industrial goods, insurance. So the market is like recovering So we still have that bullish sentiment for the NGX right there. But let's look at the fixed income market. At least there was correction at the NGX, and then we see it rebounding right there. Some big stocks are still making move. But let's look at the fixed income market and see how that market has been doing in the midst of the rally in the NGX. We have joining us Dimeji. All right, I think we've lost Dimeji right there. So let's look at the gainers for the NGX. Yesterday, we see the gainers were Charms. Charms gained 10%. That's the maximum. GTCO also, Veriscap also gained 10%. Solid gain, you will see therefore. At the flip side, you have DCAP, lost almost 10%. Also, CWG and RT Briscoe, also 9%. So those who lost well, and those who gained also gained well. I think we have Dimeji now, Dimeji Obasa, joining us to give us the summary of the fixed income space for the week. Hi, Dimeji. So we've been so caught up with what's going on at the NGX. So interesting, unprecedented moves right there. But we cannot forget the fixed income, because at least that's where you have the safe investments. Government goes there to borrow money. But what has been happening right there at the fixed income space?
Good morning. Thank you for having me. Some markets, what we've seen over the week has been bearish sentiments. On Monday, we had an FGN bond auction where about 4 bonds were on offer, with the longest dated being the 2038 bond. That bond closed at the auction at 16.5%, and we have not traded below that mark all through the week. Buyers have subsequently increased their bids even. So yesterday, we saw bids on the 2038 as high as 17%, while offers have started to inch up even higher than the auction closing rate. We saw some offers come out yesterday at 16.6%. So the general sentiment in the fixed income market is for higher rates, and we are seeing that be the trend, going forward.
All right, so is there anything that we're expecting today at the close of trade?
Today we expect market to continue to remain bearish. We expect that we would see more offers come out at higher levels than where they traded yesterday. We do not expect any government or CBN action today via an OMO auction, or there's no NTB or bond auction schedules for today. We, however, expect an NTB auction to be held on Wednesday next week. The market is very much looking forward to that. But in the interim, what we've seen, or what we continue to see today, or what we expect, is bearish sentiments with more offers coming out at higher levels.
All right, and I'm sure more investors will also be looking that way. Thank you so much, Dimeji Obasa, fixed income dealer with Access Bank PLC.
Thank you for having me.
All right, so an interesting scene or scenery we've been having in the market, financial markets in Nigeria, and interestingly is driven by domestic investors. Very interesting. We thought we couldn't do without the foreign one. But anyway, that's where we'll hand over back to the Sunrise team. Sunrise, I'll keep saying this until I see you guys at the market one of these days.
Africa's stories become world stories.
Every system of government has oligarchic tendencies.
Network Africa is your one-stop shop for news on the continent.
Cholera is highly dangerous and can kill within a day.
Join us weekdays at 4 p.m. right here on Channels Television.
talking about we're turning attention to a dual governorship election, the forthcoming election. So, Dr. Angela Assam, who is the Labour Party governorship aspirant. Also, you have Gideon Ikene, who is the APC governorship aspirant for Edo State, as well as Dr. Angela Assam. Thank you both for joining us this morning.
Good morning.
I'm going to start with you, Dr. Assam. So, why did you decide to join this race?
For the love of Edo State and for the love of my people, and a firm belief that in all that I have been given, I can make a difference.
So you had to leave the practice, and then, is this a strange feeling for you, leaving the practice and then coming in? Have you ventured into politics at any time before?
In the United States, I was a strong supporter of President Barack Obama. I was actually precinct chair for my area because we were campaigning because we wanted to see him win. So that's the extent that I have been in politics. But it's a calling. It's time. It's time for me to do something.
So are you here for good, or are you going back to Texas afterwards?
First of all, I'm Nigerian. Nigeria is the best place to be in the world. Also a U.S. citizen as well. I've lived in China. Resident of the Republic of Panama. I traveled through the Caribbean, all over South Africa. I believe that I should have a choice for where I want to live at any point in time. But Nigeria is home. So I've never left, even when I've been physically away, and I'll never leave. But I will have a choice, and I will provide a choice to all for where they want to live at any point in their lives. This is the freedom.
All right, but for you, Mr. Ikene, you've been Deputy Director General for the re-election of Governor Obaseki. You were in his party until you resigned and then moved on. In fact, you were also an aspirant at some point in PDP. You vied for that ticket. And then you're in APC now. How's that happening?
Well, thanks for having me here today. Let me start by telling you that when you have a vision and you have the passion to push your vision until you see it realized, you really cannot give up on it.
Not even Mr. Obaseki can stop you.
Well, if you just said something, I was the foremost aspirant for PDP. The forerunner was the only aspirant at the point in time that I've been to all the local government, all the world. I live with the people. I interface with them, and I see their pain, and I relate with their pain. But at that time, you know, when a party establishment decides to take a decision, don't forget, that's why it's a party. There are things the leaders will see that you won't see. If I didn't give that opportunity to Obaseki then, and I went on to win, people would have been saying, oh, by this time, Nigeria would have been looking like paradise. So you respect the party leadership, and they realize they have made mistake.
Yeah, but
so that passion, that vision is still alive. And there's no other platform you can realize that other than APC.
So how come they didn't think or see that you can actually clinch this? They had to let you go.
I'll tell you something. Politics, people play politics in this country. It's a sad situation. People play politics because of what they believe, who has the biggest purse. They saw him as a sitting governor. They didn't see the reason why he was thrown away, where he was coming from. So they voted for the money, they followed him for the money. But the vision I had, when he came to PDP, then I asked him, what's your vision for Edo State? He couldn't give me a vision statement.
The current governor?
Yes, he couldn't give me a vision statement. I asked him that question 4 times.
Was this while you were his Deputy Director General?
Well, at the time, I felt that he would be able to translate my vision to bring our people out of darkness. But rather, he has sunk the state deeper in a very terrible situation.
So you regret being his Director General?
I don't have any regret. I didn't do it for him. I did it for my people. I did it for people of Edo State.
So, what's your vision?
My vision is to make Edo State a destination of first choice for any person coming to Africa through industry, agriculture, transportation, and tourism revolution.
What's your vision?
An Edo State that works for everyone. An Edo State where fear from hunger, poverty, kidnappings, harassment, and all kinds of ills that we experience today. My vision is an Edo State where all of that is eliminated.
Okay, Dr. Assam and Mr. Hine, it sounds like your vision is you just use different words for more or less the same thing, an Edo State for everyone. But let's come back to you, Dr. Assam. You've not ventured into politics in the Nigerian space, and you just came in straight for the #1 seat. That's daring.
Because I believe that I can do it. I've seen everyone doing it.
I thought I was going to add, is that what doctors do?
Well, I was trained to analyze, make a diagnosis, and try to treat. This is exactly what I've been doing. I haven't come in straight. I've been back to Nigeria all the years I've been away, minimum 2, 3. You call me and I'm here. It can be for a wedding, it can be for a funeral, it can be for a birthday. It can be just for nothing.
You come in and you are in the midst of it.
I'm in the midst. And remember, I'm also watching and learning and comparing. It's the comparisons that get you. You know, I could be in Mexico City. It's got demographics very similar to us. But there's always constant electricity. There's water. There's education. You go to sleep at night, you're not afraid. You don't hear that children are going to school kidnapped. So I've seen this, and I've seen enough, and I know enough. I've been given enough. I've trained enough to be able to do this.
How do you plan to pull this up? Because your party at the moment is not having it easy. They seem to be factionalized in the state and both at the center as well. So 2 groups. Which group is supporting you?
I think the party is supporting me. As far as I'm concerned, from everything that I've seen and that I know, legally, there's not a division. This is what I know. So my intention going into this is to be on the platform of the Labour Party because they kind of reiterate my thoughts, my wishes right now. And ultimately, I'm here for everyone. At the end of the day, it's not going to be about Labour Party or PDP or APC. It's going to be about the Edo people. It is my job right now to convince Edo people that I can do this job. I can lead us out of this unfortunate situation that we're in. It is my hope that when we get to it, everyone will be voting for me because I am qualified, I'm ready, and I'm willing.
Okay, Mr. Ikene, you are also going to tell us that you're qualified and you're going to make a difference. But you started out by saying the man you supported before, whom you helped to bring into office, took Edo State backwards. What are you going to do that is different from what you helped him do?
All right. Let me say something here. A lot of people want to be governor, and they tell you they have ambition to be governor, which is very personal to them.
You don't want to be governor?
That's not my ambition. I have a vision. A vision is always a corporate goal for everybody. Like I said, when I was his DG, I took him to the 192 ward. I took him to places as a sitting governor that he has never been to. We are not really here to discuss him. What I'm trying to let you understand is, I know the state. You first of all have to know the state you want to govern. We have 192 ward in Edo State. I've been to the 192 ward. I've been to practically every hamlet in Edo State. I can begin to give you the history of Edo State, whether you are talking of Edo North, I have 6 local governments, whether you are starting from Akoko Edo, what is Edo North, where is Akoko Edo? Akoko Edo is one of the oldest local governments that have never been broken down from the time of Midwestern states. What value does Akoko Edo bring to Edo State? I can tell you what used to be there that are no longer there. So I know what is in Edo State, I know what is supposed to be there, and I know the next phase of the state we should be going to. Right now, the average man in Edo State, they are merely existing. Existence is far from them. There are no roads. Everybody will tell you I will build roads. How do you want to do it? I've been preparing for this. I have my program for the state.
Well, if you say that you took him to places he did not know,
yes,
it means, but you know those places.
Yes.
He still became governor. Does it mean it doesn't matter what you know? It depends on what the people want.
Well, the question is, was that what the people want? Unfortunately.
You say that wasn't what the people wanted?
Excuse me, unfortunately.
How did they win?
That's where I'm coming to. As a party, you have a program. Okay? If you have a program as a party and you become a governor, who supervises your program? That's why one of my cardinal programs, I always tell people, for any person to rule Edo State, for Edo State to work, 3 things must be in place. Irrespective of the party, we must bring back party supremacy in Nigeria, where the governor sitting down will be supervised by the party.
Was it not in PDP?
It's never there. It will tell you it's the head of the party. You don't submit to any person. How do you look at your manifesto? Who supervises your manifesto, whether they're in place or not? Who do you submit to?
Is it true you left the party because you thought they had zoned it to Edo South?
Oh, that's very wrong. I'm not running zone to Edo South. No, it couldn't have been zoned to Edo South. Edo South have done 16 years. Obaseki is from Edo South. Our former governor, Chief Lucky Benedio, is from Edo South. So it has never been zoned to Edo South. Nobody is talking about zoning. And I'm not running because of zoning. I'm running because I'm the best fit candidate prepared for this job in Edo State.
How do you plan to defeat the other aspirants in the party? They've been tested. They've run for elections.
Do you know how many elections I've conducted? Do you know how many senators and House of Representatives?
What makes you think you can beat them to the ticket?
That's exactly what I'm saying. In my senatorial zone, I have consistently been responsible for the production of every senator, whether in PDP or the present APC.
So the kingmaker wants to be made king now?
Well, I've always supported them. I've always been there. But right now, I can tell you, if you send children on errands and they are not delivering on it, you go yourself.
You're saying it's your turn?
I am the next governor of Edo State.
No, are you saying it's your turn?
I am going to be the next governor of Edo State. That's what I'm telling you.
So I'm sure that's what Dr. Sam is also saying.
I respect her opinion. She's welcome to the race. We are not yet there. Let's sort out the issues within my party first.
Is that to say that, for instance, Pastor Yamu, it won't even scratch the surface?
Well, allow the past to be the past.
Is the past?
If you have tested people before, you don't repeat failure. So, like I say, you watch football. Every season, you see clubs buying new strikers. APC have very good players in the field. Every person in the field now, they are good players. Yamu was our top striker 4 years ago. And if the club feels that they need a striker to replace him, he's not scoring more goals as they want, they have to get in a new striker, and that's me.
You certify yourself as the striker, not the club anymore?
Well, the club came for me, and they know I'm the best striker.
Have they come for you already?
Of course.
See our primaries.
I tell you, like the forms I got for this selection, the youth bought it for me. The youth of Edo State.
Not the club.
The youth of Edo State, they are the club. So they bought the forms for me because they said you must run.
But, Dr. Som, I mean, how would you find the entire scenario? Because people still talk about what do they do? How would you get, because you say Labour Party, but in terms of how the people vote and the sentiments they've got, they're still a little confused as to, are they sure if they stick with you, will you have support of, because we've seen both groups go at each other. So that concern is still there. How do they get past that stage? Even if you say you have the support of the party, but we know behind the scenes what's going on.
Well, thank you for that question. Once again, perceptions of division or disunity are often amplified for political gains. So I hope you know that a lot of this division that you're talking about is not real when you're on ground, because I've been on ground. Just like Engineer Ikine here, I've been to all 18 local government areas, and I know what's happening within our family of the Labour Party. So, but moving past that, at the end of the day, every voice matters. If any one group is speaking in the Labour Party against any other group, it doesn't matter the ratios of who's speaking. It means that somebody else has something to say. What we should do is listen to each other. No one group can claim they know it all, they have everything. So what I intend to do is to gain the trust and the support of anyone who calls themselves a Labour Party card-carrying member, especially those where we are. We have to be focused. So who will be delegates?
In the event that you secure the ticket and Mr. Ikine does same, do you think you can beat him in the elections and get more votes than him?
Yes, I can. I will have to work. I would have to convince the people that I can. And we would have to put the case before the people of Edo State. So yes, ultimately I can. I'm here because I feel that I can. I can't tell you 100% that I will, because it's going to be up to the people, up to all of you to decide that. My job is to convince you that I'm the one who's going to get the job done.
So, Mr. Ikine, it appears as if there's a chicken in the armor after all.
You're right. I've heard, like I said, we are not yet there yet, but I can tell you for sure that the people of Edo State are looking forward to having me. I'm a brand in the state. Brand among the youth, brand among the old people. I'm open to everybody. And they know my program, and my programs are there. Like I said, it's a vision. I've sold my vision to them. They bought into it. And it's difficult for you to pull out a man that buys into a vision to say, oh, sorry, there's something else. They've keyed into it. They know what I want to do for them as a state.
She's got a magic wand to defeat you in the elections in the event that you secure the ticket.
Well, I can tell you today in Edo State, before somebody will say, I will defeat you, you have to look at the scenario we have in the state. Whether you sleep in Edo State, you wake up in Edo State, I don't see any party taking Edo North from APC. Not possible. Of recent, I'm from Central, where she's from. We just produced the senator from the Central, APC. Then Edo South, basically going to be the battleground. And if you look at Edo South, 4 major local governments are metropolitan. And those 4 local governments that are metropolitan are well situated in those 4 local governments. You have 3 local governments that are probably not so metropolitan. You have the Home there, you have the Oriomo, you have Ovia Southwest. I know a lot of people there, they know me. So the 4 local governments that are metropolitan, which is Oredo, Egor, Igbobafka, and Ovia Northeast, Engineer Gideon Ikine is a brand. Anytime, any day. So I think when we get there, we'll cross the bridge.
Well, Mr. Ikine, Engineer Ikine, let me just ask you this one question because of our time. Some looking at you, listening to you right now speak, will think maybe he's so confident because he has the backing of some people in the presidency. Are you hoping to leverage on some powers or influence from the federal government to win both the party primaries and the election?
Come back again.
Can you hear me now?
Can you hear me now? Yeah, I can hear you now, yeah.
Okay. Now, some listening to you would be saying, okay, maybe he's very confident that he's going to leverage on some federal government influence to get both the primaries and the primary ticket as well as the seats of the governor in Edo State. Is that something, is that part of your political strategy?
Part of your political strategy? Well, I'll tell you this. Election is local. Every election is local. You cannot say you want to leverage on the federal government. APC is at the center. We lost Bayelsa. What is more important in every election is that you have to feed a candidate that is very popular, a candidate that knows what to do, a candidate that can deliver for the state. So because every politics is local, Edo State as we are today, the local people, the leadership of the party want Engineer Gideon Ihine. Unfortunately for me, I will not tell you I know somebody at the center. But don't forget, when you click the ticket, it becomes a party affair. Even as much as it's a party affair, the federal government is not coming to interfere in the state. It's still the people in the state that will vote. I am leveraging on the fact that I know the 192 ward of Edo State. I can sit down here and I'll tell you I have offices and I have people on ground in the 192 state of Edo State that are willing to come out and work for me. And let me tell you the politics of Edo State. In Edo State, it's very difficult for one political party to win an election without getting collaboration from the other. Today, my value from PDP is what I brought with me to APC that was able to make us win the seat of Senate in my senatorial for the first time since 1999. That value is still going to go with me from my senatorial to the state. So if you look at Edo South, for example, and Edo North was one of my strongest hold on Edo South when I ran the last time. The people are still there. Most of them are in PDP. Most of them are now in APC. By the time my party trusts me with that ticket, I can bring both parties together and we'll run into the election and win the election. More so, the present political party, the present government in Edo State, has made PDP not sellable to anybody. PDP is not a brand. So
let me quickly ask
a brand they can relate to.
That's another issue altogether, Engineer Ihine. Let me quickly ask Dr. Som this one. There are those who say that poverty has been weaponized against the people. Do you see money being an issue? Do you see it playing a significant role, both in the build-up to the election and during the elections later this year?
Yes, thank you for asking that question. I have obviously been on ground, talking to the people, engaging the people. What I have seen is that money is an issue, but money is not going to be the only issue. The good news is the people of Edo State are intelligent, discerning people. So what I am seeing is a situation where, for lack of a better word, money bags are throwing money around. But what I'm also hearing from the people of Edo State is that they will vote for whoever can deliver. So the way that I see this, it's going to be up to me and folks like me who want to do the right thing for Edo State, who do not have any presuppositions going into this. We are here to convince the Edo people that together with the Edo people, we can erase this multi-dimensional poverty that we have been thrown into. So yes, money will play a role. Money is very important. Politics all over the world. I have canvassed the entire 18 local government areas. That takes money. Just moving around takes money. Getting our people sometimes to come and listen to you also takes money. I was in a place in Isako Central where folks had to come across the river to listen to me speak. each one of those people had to pay at least 7,000 naira just to get to the point where we could all talk and fellowship. But you know what? People did it. So what does that tell you? It tells you that money is not everything to the people of Edo State. Thank you.
All right, Dr. Angela Asom is the Labour Party governorship aspirant for Edo State. She says any perceived division within Labour Party is exaggerated. Well, Gino Lekene is an engineer. He's the APC's governorship aspirant for that same ticket. He's the one who thinks that, for instance, Pastor Isayamo is not a top striker anymore. But he is. He says he's the top striker and that he's going to be the one to deliver the job for his party. Well, I have to thank both of you for coming on and all the best to both of you.
Thank you very much for having us.
Okay, but where we'd like to see our top striker play will be today against Angola. Nigeria will be facing off against Angola today in the quarterfinals. So we hope our top strikers, even if he gets an assist, we don't mind, but deliver the goods. That's all we want. So thank you all for watching. We'll see you next time. I'm Chamberlain. So goodbye.
If you could transfer the engineer into that pitch so that he could score the needed goals. But hey, we have them there already. We don't need an extra player.
Careful what you wish for.
That's it on Sunrise Day. Thank you for watching. I'm Neota Igwe.
Have a wonderful rest of your day and weekend. I'm Ayo Makinde.
Government's fundamental duty as enshrined in the Constitution is to improve the welfare and well-being of Nigerians. At the seat of power, government is constantly making policies and decisions that affect you. On Dateline Abuja, we try to sort through these policies and the inaction of government to help you make sense of them all.
There is competition for resources as a result of the impact of climate change.
We are reacting. Reaction is actually a sign of failure.
Dateline Abuja, showing at these times on Channels Television.